You want to buy an EV? Why not? There was a recent study that looked at why Australians were looking at or not looking at buying an EV. Now, the two main reasons were they were too expensive to buy and the charging infrastructure was limited. So, despite the fact that EV sales are rising again in Q1 2024, people still think that there's no chargers and they're too expensive. All right, so let's just have a look at the EV sales in Q1 2024. And as you can see, Tesla Model Y sold 6,835 and the Tesla Model 3, 5,954. But BYD are pretty well represented in there with the Atto 3, the Seal, and the Dolphin in the top 6. Now, the trouble is that the total EV sales for Australia was only about 8.4% in Q1 of total car sales. So, let's deal with the question that, or the statement that EVs are too expensive. So, yeah, look, this used to be true. EVs were a lot more expensive than the equivalent, but prices are decreasing. Now, according to that study, Australian EV buyers will pay about 8% more for an EV compared to an equivalent petrol-powered car. Now, unfortunately, the equivalent vehicles to an EV are around 25 to 35% more expensive for the EV. You just look at the MG ZS and the MG ZS EV, it's 35% more expensive. But there are some EVs that are very well priced. So if we take a look at this Gizmodo website, they've got a list of all the EVs currently available in Australia, or that have been announced and are coming and have got a price attached to them. Now, this is the MSRP, but you'll have to add your local state's on the road pricing, which here in Western Australia it's the most expensive. And in addition, you can then take off of that. Some states are offering a refund or a rebate if you buy an electric vehicle. Now, here in Western Australia, it's $3,500. In Queensland, it's $6,000. So if we take a look at this list, you'll see that some of these electric vehicles are very cheap. Now, obviously, the ones at the top of the list, like the GWM Aura, Dolphin, the ZS EV, and the MG, they're all under the 40,000 bracket. Now, obviously, they've got the smaller batteries, they've got the lower range, but they're more than acceptable for your average daily commute in Australia of about 40 kilometres. So these first four are priced under $40,000. The next 10 are between $40,000 and $50,000. And the next 12 in the list are priced from $50,000 to $60,000. And if we go up to the $70,000 mark, we're adding another 16 vehicles to that list. So, choice so far, we've got a total of 42 EVs under 70,000, which also includes a couple of the Teslas. Now, then we're getting into the realm of what you might term premium vehicles, with the likes of Lexus, BMW, Mercedes, and so on. Of course, we can go all the way up to the Porsche Taycan Turbo S. $345,800. Yeah, Okay, personally, I go and pick a couple of these Mercedes EQE 350. I could buy two of those, one for me, one for the wife, and still have some pocket change left over. Yeah, so, we're not doing too bad. Showing you those prices, there is the possibility of getting a much cheaper EV than any of those. Now, I know there are people importing the Nissan Sakura, which is a Japanese K car, that's KEI car. Now, Mitsubishi is firming on the idea of delivering its Mitsubishi EKX for a price of around $30,000. Yeah, okay, so I don't know if you know K cars, they're the small town cars in Japan. Now, the problem with these is the lack of safety features, making a 5-star ANCAP rating impossible. It might get 3 stars. Now, I've ridden in many of these Japanese K cars, and you know what? They really aren't that bad. Now, these were all petrol, obviously, but they're basically a small footprint city car. And the EKX EV is likely to have something in the region of a 20 kilowatt hour battery, providing 180 kilometres of WLTP range. Yeah, should we call that 150 real world at a pinch? But it is a city car. It's an electric shopping trolley, an electric drop the kids off to school car. It's not meant for long road trips, but I think this car could be great. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. So now we come to the perceived lack of charging infrastructure. Now, a couple of years ago, this was true, certainly here in Western Australia, but the various state and the federal governments have been quite busy installing some fast DC chargers around the country, as well as a few destination chargers. So here in WA, we've had the state government installing fast DC chargers approximately every 200 kilometres up and down the coast and across the Nullarbor to South Australia and through the middle into Kalgoorlie. They haven't done the Great Northern Highway yet. Now, this perceived lack of chargers is possibly because people are driving around and they don't see them. They're only small. They're only in small groups of 2 to 6, although occasionally you do get some large installations. Nothing like they've got in America, that's for sure. But they're driving around and they do see these large petrol stations, and they're quite frequent. They just don't notice the EV chargers. Now, I then go and show an app to people called PlugShare, and just how many chargers there are really surprises them. So, this is the whole of Australia. As you can see, there's a little bit in the middle of Western Australia there that's a little bit lacking, but all around the edge, certainly over east, they're well and truly covered. But even in Western Australia now, we've got a lot more, and they're increasing every month. So if we just zoom in here to Western Australia, you'll see down here that there's quite a few, and they're not all very far apart. So looking at the scale here, that's about 50 kilometres here. So that's not too bad. So that one to that one is just over 100. That one to that one's about 150. You go down there, you're at about 150 or 170 k's. It's not a huge imposition. So the problem is people don't see them, and they're actually placed in areas like the back streets. But there are now some chargers that are appearing in petrol stations. Ampol is beginning to install them. And one of those is literally just up the road from me, only 2 kilometres up the road. So as people see them, they'll start to believe that it's possible. But obviously they're only seeing the odd one, so their impression is, well, there's not many chargers around, is there? So the other thing, most people don't realise that you can charge your car at home overnight and wake up every morning with a full tank, so to speak. So my car is currently sitting in my garage charging off my solar panels for basically nothing, except for the loss of the pitiful feed-in tariff that the government condescends to give me. Woohoo! Not only do we have some very affordable EVs currently on the market in Australia, with more coming, there are plenty of charging stations around the country. Otherwise, how would people be driving around Australia in their electric vehicles? Even taking their Model 3 rear-wheel drive standard range, towing a caravan around Australia. It can be done. So it might take some more time to get people to start believing, but it's getting there. Now, of course, there's always going to be the die-hard V8 enthusiast or idiot that wants to tow his 5-ton caravan 1,000 kilometres without stopping. But fortunately, those numbnuts are few and far between. Most people are seeing the light, as that study showed. The biggest factor in the move to EVs, with 67% of the respondents saying that the switch to EVs is good because no tailpipe emissions and it's better for the environment. So the message is getting through. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And whilst you're there, can you please do me a big favour? Pretty please. Click on those 2 buttons there. One's called like, the other's subscribe. Now it really does help the YouTube algorithm. So pretty please click on them now if you haven't already. Thanks very much. And I'll see you all very soon.